What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single video. So this past Monday, the Teen Mom OG Reunion Special Part 1 aired, and I have to say it was a whole lot of BS. Like, you guys, there is a reason I don't love covering reunions. In fact, I didn't cover Teen Mom 2's past reunion because it was just straight up BS with the girls acting like grown-ass babies and Dr. Drew not asking proper questions. But anyway, let's jump into what did happen and what should have happened during part 1 of the reunion special. It started off with all of the girls minus Farrah sitting on the couch together, and when Dr. Drew asked them how they felt about Farrah not being on the couch with them, Amber turned on her little thug life, act where she was like, I don't know why she's scared, not like I'm gonna beat her ass, she ain't shit to me, that kind of thing. Maci said that they'd been trying to get along with her for like 9 years, and at this point, like, there's no point. And Kate also said that she doesn't like negative, nasty people, which was really ironic to me because when the whole thing started, Amber was a straight up potty mouth right until 10 seconds before Kate spoke about not liking people who are really abrasive and hostile, right? And it's like you're sitting right next to and you love and support a really violent person. Like, she's physically violent, verbally violent, emotionally violent. So I don't understand why you're okay with this person but not the other. She also complained that Farrah is really rude to her mom, and Dr. Drew was kind of like, all right girl, but that's none of your business. And Kate is like, well, how she treats her mom is how she treats like everybody. And so Dr. Drew was like, all right, fine, let's just move along. So our first one-on-one was with Amber Portwood. As usual, as she's sitting on the couch, we get a lot of B-roll footage about the things that she went through this season, including all those scenes where Matt was talking shit about her behind her back. And so you could just see her face as it's all happening. She's getting frustrated all over again. We even saw the lie detector scene yet again, where she's on the streets calling him an old man, trash, and all of that stuff. And so after all of that happens, Dr. Drew asks her where she and Matt stand as of now, and she's like, we don't have a title, we're not together, but we're not together either, and we still do live with each other as well. Amber gets into this tirade about how, like, she's the boss of the house, she owns the house, and XYZ. And so Dr. Drew's like, well, it's his name on the deed, girl. And Amber was like, yeah, it is, but it's my house, I make the money. And so Dr. Drew is kind of trying to nicely tell her that, like, yeah, you might make all the money and stuff, but you put his name on the house, so now he is an equal owner to the house. And she just doesn't understand it. She's like, I'll lawyer up that. And so Dr. Drew's like, what? It's just not worth it. She's gonna learn the hard way on this. And so he continues on to talk about how uncomfortable it made him to see the way Matt has been isolating Amber over the years. And so Amber says that she's put a stop to it. He asks her whether or not her friends are now coming back around now that she's kind of, distancing herself from Matt and allowing herself to have a life outside of him. And she says she doesn't have friends, but she has family, and that her family has been trying to help her this entire time. But it's been really difficult to see outside of this relationship when you were just so wrapped up in it. One thing I really enjoyed about Amber's segment is that Dr. Drew really seemed to call Matt out. At a certain point, he even told Amber that he was disgusted by the fact that, he was straight up appalled that Matt would try to get in between her relationship with her brother simply because she called him to ask whether or not she should go through with, like, the wedding. And Sean didn't even really have anything to say. He was like, you make the decision as a grown woman, and Matt totally flipped out. And so Amber admitted that, like, watching that back and seeing what Matt had to say about her and her relationship with her brother, claiming she wanted to secretly marry him, embarrassed her, it disgusted her, and she was ashamed by him. But sadly, she softened her approach towards the end of that little rant. She's like, but I love him and I can't just drop him like that. It's not that easy. And so at a certain point, the conversation turns into how, like, Leah could be affected in all of this. And so Amber tries to do that whole little thing where she's got the crocodile tears and stuff like that, but as usual, no tears were coming out. Does it creep anyone else out that Amber literally cannot cry for her daughter, even, like, in light of the fact that her boyfriend stole like $90,000 to $120,000 from her and her daughter? She still can't seem to find the tears. And I'm sitting here like, you know what? I could cry over my sister's dog in 5 seconds, but you can't even cry over your damn child? All right then. And speaking of stealing boyfriend, Amber and Dr. Drew call up Matt, who isn't in studio, remember, because he had surgery. Yeah, right. And they try to talk to him about the money that Amber claims is missing. She said somewhere between $90,000 to $120,000 went missing via Matt. So they call him on the phone and start asking questions, and he, as usual, starts playing dumb, and he tries to turn it around on Amber, like, why are you so mad? Who would not be livid about losing like $100,000. Like, what do you mean, why am I mad? I should be strangling you right now. Despite Matt's attempts to avoid the question at all costs, Amber and Dr. Drew keep pressing him about the missing money. And so now, all of a sudden, he claims that he took the money to go gambling in Vegas, $30,000 at first, to go gambling in Vegas. And he claims that that money came out of his MTV paycheck. That's what he was paid by MTV. And so Amber calls him out on that BS. She's like, no, you were paid $20-something thousand by MTV. So why did you take $30,000? And so Matt tries to, like, you know, create a new, like, numerical scale or something. So he tries to claim that, like, 27,000 or whatever is the same as 30,000. And Amber's like, what, you know, where's the difference between the 20-something thousand that you made and the $30,000 that you took? And why won't you give that back to me? And he refuses to answer the question yet again. And so Dr. Drew asks whether or not Matt has some kind of a gambling addiction. And both of them deny that that's the case. At a certain point, Amber and Dr. Drew were like, all right, that's your explanation for the $30,000. What about the $60,000? What about the $90,000 that you also took? And at this point, Matt goes, you know what, Dr. Drew, Amber, when she gets, like, really mad, she forgets. I already told her where the money went. You know, like, she's just mad right now and thinking irrationally. He always does this to her. Like, he always makes her feel like she is crazy whenever she has legitimate questions about the shady shit that he's doing. And so Amber's like, you know what, do not play with me, because I'm gonna come out with guns a-blazing when it comes to you. And I was, like, so proud of her for standing up for him. But at the same time, I was really scared for her as well, because we all know how much Matt hates to be humiliated on television. And by humiliated, I mean being caught in his lies and exposed for them. Matt never answered to, you know, where the $90,000 went that he also took from Amber. And the conversation kind of ends there. And Amber gets so frustrated by him that she gives him the middle finger before they hang up. And shortly before hanging up on him, Dr. Drew asked him, okay, well, since you won the money back and stuff like that, where is it? And Matt claimed that he had, like, $30,000 in his backpack. Like a grown-ass 50-something-year-old man walking around with $30,000 of his, like, 20-year-old girlfriend, fiance, wife's, child's money in a backpack. The last thing I'm gonna say about this, like, money issue is that Dr. Drew suggests that the two of them have separate bank accounts. And so Matt's like, yeah, as if he's gonna be really happy about that. He was putting on a front, and Amber called him out on his shit. And then she also said that he has to promise right now on air that he's not gonna have a fit about being called out on TV when she gets home. Remember, I told you guys earlier, I bet you anything, Matt had the biggest meltdown and made her feel like absolute shit when she got home for having the nerve to stand up for herself. So then, like, he's like, oh, why don't you smile? You can't see me, but I could see you. And Amber falls for his psychopathic charm, and Dr. Drew doesn't question his character any longer. And so we go on commercial break, and when we return, Gary and Christina are also on stage with Amber, and they talk about what just happened. Dr. Drew immediately asked Gary whether or not he likes Matt. And so Gary was like, you know what? I don't love him. I don't hate him. But one thing I could tell you right now is he's no longer allowed driving Leah around. And Amber agreed that that was a good idea. And then Gary started talking about the money that he just heard was missing from Amber. And he was like, you know what? Like, it is sad to think that that just happened, because, like, $120,000 is a lot of money, you know, that could have gone towards Leah. That could have paid off her school. You know, for Amber, it could have been two more Corvettes. And I was just dying over the absolute shade. It was so freaking funny. Don't change, Gary. And things really started to get really good towards the end of Gary's little segment. He brought up the fact that Matt had always isolated Amber as long as he'd known her. And then he was like, you know what, like, as well, like, this whole relationship has never sat right to me, because just think about all the other girls that Matt has approached in the past. Like, isn't Amber like the third, fourth girl that he's approached? Like, I don't understand if his intentions towards her are even genuine, because he seemed to have a pattern of going for girls on the show who were struggling with things, whether it was coming from broken families, growing up in poverty, or having drug addictions. He went for really easy targets, and that's kind of how I feel about the relationship, and it never being something that was genuine from the start. And so just when Dr. Drew has a chance to do his damn job, he's like, Gary, look at Amber. She's telling you to shut up. Where the hell did this guy get, like, certified? Because it makes absolutely no sense that he refuses to answer legitimate questions or foster legitimate conversations. Like, this is a conversation that could have helped push Amber further away from Matt at the time, and that's exactly what we all know she needs. After Amber and Gary's segment ends, we move on over to Maci, who is not wearing TTM for once, thank God. And so Dr. Drew asks her what the toughest part of her season was, and it's obviously dealing with Ryan's addiction problem. She says that the addiction has been affecting their son Bentley for quite a while now, and that she first started noticing it when she would watch certain scenes of Teen Mom in the previous seasons and notice his body language in real life as well. Dr. Drew then starts trying to claim that, like, you know, when I saw that car scene, I assumed that what he was on was opiates, you know, and so he seems like he wanted Maci to confirm or deny, but she refused to. She just looked stone-faced at that moment. When Dr. Drew asks her whether or not she's told Mackenzie, Maci says that she hasn't, but she had approached Jen in the past, and Jen shut down the conversation and was in complete denial. And so she said the reason that she didn't want to tell Mackenzie was because she didn't want her to feel like Ryan was an untrustworthy person or that their relationship wasn't real. It seems like Maci genuinely did not want to hurt Mackenzie with the news, but at the same time, Mackenzie is a grown-ass woman who's been living with this guy pretty much from like the first month that she met him. So she definitely had to have noticed his addiction problems. If like anyone watching the show can notice off a couple 2-minute scenes, there's no way in how this girl didn't notice. But anyway, Dr. Drew quickly reiterates how disturbing and shocking the driving scene that like everyone is stunned by was before bringing Mackenzie on stage. And Mackenzie had her best soccer mom haircut with the shortest romper she could find at like Rainbow City or whatever that little store is for teenage girls. When Dr. Drew asked her to tell the audience why Ryan wasn't with her, Mackenzie admitted that the reason he's not there for the reunion is because he is in fact in rehab. And so we get to see that driving scene again where Ryan is like passed out, swerving so badly in traffic that Mackenzie had to take control of the wheel from him because she was gonna marry that cash cow even if it killed her. And then you clearly see her consistently looking at him and looking terrified about what could potentially happen with like someone doped up behind the wheel. She kept like punching him to wake up and all of that. Like, she was clearly aware of what happened, and not once did she ever tell him, hey, I think you should pull over until like you're arrested or you're awake, or I should drive, or anything like that. In fact, all she did was unplug the cameras and ask him, did you take Xanax again? Meaning she knew he abuses Xanax at the very least. Before allowing Mackenzie to speak on the drama, Dr. Drew like issues this like statement claiming that producers would have never let Ryan drive if they knew he was so messed up, how it's not their fault, they only saw it like in the editing room just like us, and all that stuff. And it is absolute bullshit, and I explain why in another video on my channel. Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. He then asks Mackenzie how she found out, or when she found out about Ryan's addiction problem, and she claims that she only found out about it 2 days before he went to rehab, and that he went to rehab specifically because she gave him an ultimatum, which was either get clean or I'm out, because I'm not gonna stand by and watch you kill yourself, which we all know is BS. Maci, on the other hand, says that she's seen him like as messed up as he was in that driving scene a couple of times in the past, and that he had actually had a previous rehab stint as well. These two experiences with the same drug addict are just in such stark contrast to each other that like it's difficult not to be mind boggled as to how one person who is with this guy 24/7, a lot more than Maci has been in like, you know, the past couple years, claims to have not seen any signs of it. Like, it's absolutely mind-boggling how stupid a person can be if she is in fact this stupid. I think she's playing dumb, but there is a potential that she really is just this stupid. And of course, Mackenzie claimed that she had no clue about Ryan's prior rehab stint, and that like she had prepared a letter to read to Maci because she's not very good at coming up with things on the spot. She starts reading this letter, and I have to say, y'all, it is so juvenile that she's counting down the days, hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds that Maci had to save Ryan's life or like allowed him to slowly die away. Like, it was a mess, you guys, a straight up mess. Like, it's Maci's job to coddle a grown-ass man whose parents already knew about his damn addiction. Listen, Mackenzie, Maci has 3 children of her own to raise. Ryan is absolutely not her problem. Like she said, his parents knew about his addiction problem. So if his own parents are not gonna help him, what do you expect her to do? She's tried, and all she can do is her very best, but she has boundaries because she's got her very own family on the other side to be worried about. Like, this is a grown-ass man. This is his problem. This is his parents' problem, and this is your problem. Mackenzie then claims that Maci exploited Ryan's addiction for the show. Maci's like, I absolutely did not. He exploited himself. And so Mackenzie's like, I'm not finished, as her soccer mom haircut like shakes a little bit. And she continues to read her letter where she claims that she only knew about his addiction problem like 2 days prior to his rehab stint. And even though we all saw him clearly high as a kite on her wedding date, this was the perfect moment for Dr. Drew to do his damn job and ask Mackenzie, all right, girl, all the scenes we've seen of this guy with his crazy doped up eyes, you know, for 2 seasons straight, you've been here, this is your 2nd season, for 2 seasons straight at the very least, everyone has been suspecting he's got a drug problem. Even Amber, who doesn't even hang around this guy, she just sees it on the television or she sees him in passing at reunions and stuff like that, knew he had a drug problem. Caitlyn knew he had a drug problem. You know, like, what are you talking about? You didn't know, and you and your child live with him. Like, what the hell? And he could have even like brought up receipts. Play that thing for the 3rd time, Dr. Drew. He could have showed her the footage of her and him on the porch when they were talking about getting ready for the wedding. His eyes, you know, like I told you, one was north, one was south, one was east, one was west. They were avoiding the hell out of each other. And she was visibly irritated with how doped up the guy was. And then show her again the driving scene. Dr. Drew could have honestly taken the time to ask her, why were you steering for Ryan? Why was he asleep in the car then? And why didn't you ask him if he's tired? If you didn't think it was a drug problem and you thought it was an exhaustion or something else. He could have asked her why she had to like punch him awake like 5 times. And he just sat there as she blamed Maci, who's the only person who has been trying to help this guy the entire time while everyone else plays dumb. And let's not even forget the part where Mackenzie turns off the cameras and asks Ryan very clearly, are you on Xanax again? Meaning she knew he had been abusing Xanax at a certain point in his life. You knew he had an issue with drugs. So why would that even cross your mind if you had no clue he had a drug issue? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so in knowing that, this was a perfect time for Dr. Drew to question the validity of this shotgun marriage and her character as a person for choosing to marry a guy that she knew was clearly high and risking her life on the road to get there and her child's life in all of this. Why would you bring your child into this mess? Dr. Drew had so many opportunities to drag Mackenzie for filth, and he chose to just sit there as per usual and be useless. As Mackenzie continued her letter, she called Maci the real enabler who humiliated Ryan, her, and the kids for life. She claimed that Maci was kicking Ryan while he was down and not respecting the privacy that they so greatly deserve on this reality television show that they're all on. Maci rightfully laughs after Mackenzie finishes reading her letter and calls it absolutely ridiculous and bullshit. And she says what everyone's thinking, which is, you shouldn't be on a reality television show then if you want your privacy. Mackenzie then walks off stage, and I think that's because she didn't want Dr. Drew to ask her any tough questions about the role she played in Ryan driving under the influence. Dr. Drew individually calms down Maci a little bit, like, oh, I understand what you're going through right now. It must be frustrating, blah, blah, blah. And so Mackenzie in her little Fashion Nova jumpsuit come on back to stage, and Maci calls her absolutely full of shit, and she accuses her of playing dumb about Ryan's very, very, very obvious drug addiction. The conversation doesn't really go anywhere from there. It was a whole bunch of nothing and missed opportunities to really ask proper questions, hold people accountable as they should be, like even including calling out Ryan's parents. Why did they bring, you know, Jen and Larry are always front and center, you know, for reunion specials. So why weren't they there to answer to the fact that Maci had told Jen specifically about Ryan's drug addiction problem, and she had nothing to say about it and chose to kind of sit back and, you know, watch her son die, essentially. That letter that Mackenzie wrote should have been for Ryan's parents, if anybody. And so, of course, they didn't go there, and Jen and Larry didn't come on stage for the first time, Before we wrap up this video, I want to quickly note that I think it would have been a really, really, really powerful moment for MTV and Dr. Drew to correct Mackenzie's language when it comes to talking about Ryan's addiction problem. I don't think that Maci in any way humiliated Ryan or Bentley by opening up about his struggles with addiction, because it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's an illness that can catch pretty much anybody off guard. A lot of people experiment with drugs and alcohol, and you know, if you don't fall to some sort of an addiction or anything like that, then you are a lucky person. So Dr. Drew should have corrected Mackenzie on that, in that it's not a shameful thing. Ryan is not bringing shame to his family or anything like that. You know what I mean? I think that the shame that comes with being an addict of some sort kills people a lot more than the actual addiction does. And so part 1 should have ended on that note. So quickly after this little interaction, all the girls were brought up on stage again, minus Farrah, and then they talked about that UK show, Teen Mums or whatever, which I won't be watching. They've already overdone the show. Let's just quit it right now. You know what I mean? Leave Teen Mom OG and Teen Mom 2, maybe completely overhaul the casts and stuff like that, but I don't think we need one for every damn country. And so they kind of talk about that show, and we see previews for what's to come in part 2, which includes Caitlin's story in addition to Farrah's as well. What did you think about part 1 of the Teen Mom OG reunion special? Did it live up to your expectations, or were too many secrets already spilled? I feel like a lot of the stuff that went on, especially with Amber and Matt, were already leaked to the blog, so I didn't feel like I learned all that much watching the show, but maybe you did. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more, feel free to share it with your friends as well, and follow me across social media where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.